Good morning, I'm Trisha Bear from the Culinary Command Post, and today I'm going to show you how to make peanut butter pie. And we have the chocolate graham cracker crust. We have two already made graham cracker crust, and then I'm going to also teach you how to make your own homemade graham cracker crust. So we're going to make two peanut butter pies first, and then we're going to make our homemade peanut butter pie second. So the ingredients are, we have 2 cups of peanut butter because we're going to double the recipe, because we're making 2 pies. The recipe below the video is for 1 pie only. We're making 2 pies, so we have 2 8-ounce packages of softened cream cheese, 2.5 cups of powdered sugar. We have some ground nuts, peanuts that I'm going to put on top, as well as we're going to do some semi-sweet chocolate shavings on top and some Cool Whip. The Cool Whip is also going to be mixed in with the cream filling, and then we'll use the remainder of it to go on top. On the store-bought crust, this particular one, it says you can bake it for 5 minutes if you want a crispier crust. So we're going to put this one in the oven for 5 minutes at 375 degrees, and it also says to brush it with egg white. So I just have the egg white portion of the egg, so we're going to gently brush the crust with it, and then we're going to stick it in the oven at 375 degrees for 5 minutes. So make sure you read your package, because the other one's already been baked and you don't have to put that in the oven. Alright. We're going to stick that in the oven for 5 minutes. And they're both chocolate crust. This is more of a dark chocolate crust, and that's more of a lighter milk chocolate color. We're going to stick it in the oven for 5 minutes at 375 degrees. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to make our peanut butter filling for both pies. So we're doubling the recipe that's below the video. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need is 2 cups of peanut butter, and I'm just using the Reese's peanut butter in a jar. 2 cups. We're going to use this one. Get it out. And you want to make sure that your peanut butter is not hard and it didn't just come out of the fridge, so leave it at room temperature, and then also your cream cheese at room temperature. And you can use crunchy peanut butter or any kind of peanut butter that you would like. I've never tried this recipe with powdered peanut butter, but I may try that someday because it is a lot lower in calories. Alright, so that was 1 cup. Now we're going to add another cup because we're doubling the recipes to make 2 pies with the crust already pre-made. And then at the end of this show, I'm going to show you how to make homemade chocolate pie crust. A lot of people don't have a lot of time, so if you don't have time, just buy the store-bought crust. The other one that's homemade, it just basically takes 4 ingredients, so it doesn't take a lot of time just to make the homemade either. Okay, so that's our peanut butter. And so now we're going to mix it. So we've got 2 cups of peanut butter, and now we're going to mix it with our softened cream cheese, which is 2 8-ounce packages of cream cheese. And if you forget to leave it out long enough, you can go ahead and put it in the microwave at 30-second intervals to get it soft. Okay, so we're going to mix those 2 together first. Okay, so we have our peanut butter and our softened cream cheese mixed together. And now we're going to add our 2.5 cups of powdered sugar because we're making 2 pies, 2 peanut butter pies with chocolate crust. So I'm going to gradually pour in the powdered sugar, and make sure you mix it on low so it doesn't throw powder everywhere. The pie I just put in the oven for 5 minutes is done, so I'm going to get it out of the oven first. Alright, so our pie in the oven's done, and now we're going to continue to put in our powdered sugar and with our peanut butter and cream cheese that we've already mixed. If you can get one of these sliding trays, it's a lot easier to get your powdered sugar and your flour into the mixing bowl. We're going to turn it on low because we don't want powder to go everywhere. Okay, so we've just mixed in our peanut butter, cream cheese, and then we poured in our powdered sugar. And I did sift the powdered sugar, by the way, because I always sift the flour and the powdered sugar. Okay, so then our next step is we're going to fold in our Cool Whip, or you can make homemade Cool Whip by putting heavy cream and vanilla and a little bit of sugar in a mixing bowl. But we've already got this one, so we're going to put 3/4 of this into the mix, and the last quarter of it we're going to leave for the top of the pie when we get done mixing it. So you're going to fold it in, which means just go down the center and then go right like clockwise, and that's how you fold the whipped cream into the peanut butter filling. And that's just 3 ingredients. You have peanut butter, softened cream cheese, and then the powdered sugar, and then we just added 3/4 cup of whipped cream. So 4 ingredients is how you make the filling for a peanut butter pie. It's super easy, and it doesn't take that long. And remember, this is for 2 pies. The recipe below the video is for 1 pie only, but normally people eat 2 pies once they taste this, so I always do 2. So we're going to do 2 pies. Okay, so I have the Cool Whip folded in. So now we're going to put it in this pie and the other pie that we just got out of the oven, and we just cooked it for 375 degrees for 5 minutes. So now we're going to add the filling to this chocolate pie here. And it takes a few hours, about 4 hours, for the peanut butter pie to set. So it's easier if you make this in the morning because it's going to take about 4 hours to actually set the filling. So when you cut it, it'll slice it evenly. Okay, so we're going to put half in this pie shell. And these are actually 9-inch pies. When I make the homemade pie crust, I'm going to make it with a spring foam pan, and I want to show you how to make it in that because it's a lot easier to cut when it's set than it is trying to cut a pie that's in a regular pie dish. This is an offset spatula, so it's a lot easier to make it level if you have that versus a regular spatula like this. And you can put whatever shavings or fruit or whatever you want on top. I'm just going to use peanuts that I grounded up, and then I'm going to use semi-sweet chocolate. I'm going to show you how to shave it, put it on there. Okay, so I've got the peanut butter even. So now I'm going to use the Cool Whip or whipped cream, whatever you call it, and we're going to put that on top. And you can use a little more than a cup if you need to. Okay, I'm going to spread out the Cool Whip, and then we're going to put on our peanuts. And I'll show you how to shave the chocolate. This is the Ghirardelli chocolate that I'm going to use today. Alright. And you just kind of go around the sides and make like a little C pattern with your offset spatula to get it to be level. Now if you do buy the deep crust, you may need to use a little bit more of the filling because this is just a regular crust, and it does work on this one, but if I was to use a deep pie shell, I would have to use more peanut butter because I wouldn't have enough of the peanut butter filling. Okay, I've got all the peanut butter covered up. Looks level. Okay, now I'm going to sprinkle some peanuts on top. These are actually Texas Roadhouse peanuts, so if you go to Texas Roadhouse, grab you a bag of peanuts, and this works perfect for these because they're already roasted. And I just ground them in a little Ninja mixer. Just like that. Okay. And then we're going to shave the semi-sweet chocolate, and I'm letting the other pie shell cool over there for a minute. That's why I'm doing this one first, and then we'll go back and do that one. So they have these little squares, and I'm just going to go around and put chocolate on the side, on the top of it, so top side. Okay, you can put as much chocolate as you want. Okay, now I'm going to do the one we just got out of the oven. And it's cool enough to put the pie filling in. If you get a chance to get one of these little bowl scrapers, they're very handy when it comes to getting things out of the bowl. Getting everything out of the bottom. Okay. Spread out your peanut butter. And like I said earlier, if you want to make your own homemade whipped cream, just buy you heavy cream, mix it in a stand mixer, and put in maybe a tablespoon of vanilla and maybe a 1/4 cup or less of white sugar, and that's how you make your own heavy cream. Okay, there's the peanut butter. Now I'm going to add in some whipped topping. I call it Cool Whip. Okay, so I got the Cool Whip on the pie, the peanut butter pie. Now we're going to add our nuts and our chocolate. And that's how easy it is. It didn't take that long just to make 2 pies. We are going to make a homemade crust in just a second. Now we're going to put these 2 in the fridge so they can be chilling while I make the homemade crust pie. I'm Trisha Bear from the Culinary Command Post, and I'm going to show you how to make homemade chocolate crust pie. And I'm going to be using a spring foam pan, so if you don't have one of these, they come in very handy. They make cutting pies a lot easier, and it makes it look a lot nicer, so the bottom comes out of it. And you just stick the bottom in it, and then lock in the hinge over here on the side. And then when you get done and the pie is set, then you just take off the spring foam part, and then you just have the bottom, and it's a lot easier to cut clean slices of pie. So we're going to use that, and I'm going to spray it with the Pam spray with flour. And I usually spray it and then I'll wipe off the excess, so I'll just make sure it's even coat of the spray. And I just turned on the oven for 350 degrees, and this one's also going to take 5 minutes to cook. Okay. So in our food processor here, we're going to add, and this recipe has grams, so it's 408 grams of graham crackers, just the regular graham crackers. So we're going to add those into our food processor. And then we're going to add our softened butter, which this is, it says it's a certain grams. So on the butter it says 226 grams, which is equal to 2 sticks of butter and another tablespoon. And I did soften the butter in the microwave for about 30 seconds just to get it softened. Or you can just leave it out at room temperature and soften it that way. And then we're going to add the 114 grams of the cane sugar. And I used a scale to weigh this. When I was in school at OSUIT, I would use a scale to measure everything to make sure everything turned out. So here's our sugar. And then our last thing that we're going to add for the crust is, the recipe says Dutch cocoa. It's 42 grams, but you can use regular Hershey's cocoa if you can't find the Dutch cocoa. Pour it in. Okay, so now we're going to mix that in the food processor. And we're going to pulse it and let it pulse it and mix it at the same time. Alright, so we're gonna start with low. Then you're going to take it out and you're going to pour it into your spring foam pan. And I've already sprayed the spring foam pan with this Pam spray. And we're going to pack it in there. And then we're going to stick it in the oven. I've got the oven going. It's 350 degrees, and we're going to cook it also for 5 minutes. When you do this, make sure you melt the butter and put the butter first so it'll mix properly. Alright, so what I'm doing first is I'm patting it down on the bottom with my spatula, and then I'm going to put it against the sides. Next. And you can just go around the sides with your spatula and put the crust on the side of the pan. And then we're going to use this device here to put the rounded corners. I'm doing the sides first. And then I'm going to do the bottom. So I'm just tapping the crust so it'll be even on the bottom so it cooks the same. It's going to cook for 5 minutes at 350 degrees. And I'm just going around the edges and pressing down the crust. Just making sure the sides are level. Spatula. Okay, so now we're going to put it in the 350 degree oven for 5 minutes. And then we're going to make our peanut butter filling that's going to go inside of it. And I've got the spring foam pan latched. Alright, so now we're going to make our peanut butter pie filling. So we've got 1 cup of peanut butter. We've got our cream cheese, which I did just put it in the microwave to make it soft. 1 1/4 cups of powdered sugar. Our Cool Whip, which we're going to put 3/4 of a cup inside the filling. Okay, so now we're taking the homemade pie crust, the homemade chocolate pie crust out of the oven. We had it in there for 5 minutes at 350 degrees. Okay, so we're going to let it cool while we're mixing up the pie filling, the peanut butter pie filling. So now we're going to use our softened peanut butter, which was set out at room temperature. We're going to add 1 cup of peanut butter. So this recipe here is actually what the recipe shows. We're making just 1 pie filling for this one. Alright, so here's the peanut butter. we're going to do about 8 ounces of it, which is half of this container. Alright, and then we're going to put in our 8-ounce block of cream cheese that's softened or set at room temperature. Okay, and then we're going to add, after we mix those two up first, then we're going to add our powdered sugar. So let's mix those two first. Okay, and then now we're going to add our 1 1/4 cup of powdered sugar. And I like this stand mixer because the bowl's high, so that way things don't go everywhere as easy. If you got a tall bowl. I think this is an 8-quart one. Okay, so now we're going to add in our 3/4 cup of Cool Whip. It's about 3/4 cup of Cool Whip. You're just going to fold it into the peanut butter and the cream cheese mixture. And that gives it that light texture for peanut butter filling. Now be sure when you are mixing your homemade pie crust that you do melt the butter and you put the butter in first in your food processor. That way it mixes up easier. You're not really stirring in the whipped cream, you're actually folding it in. Okay, so I got my pie filling mixed up. So now we're going to put it into our pie crust. And we're not going to take the spring foam off until our pie has chilled for several hours. After we put on our peanut butter filling, then we're going to put our Cool Whip on top, which is about 1/4 cup. So 3/4 cup we folded in, and the other 1/4 cup we're going to put on top of the pie. And you can use as much whipped topping as you want. I'm going to use quite a bit on this one because the spring foam pan is taller than most of them. Okay, so I got the Cool Whip spread out. Now I'm just going to put the peanuts on, and then we're going to put some chocolate shavings on top. I'm going to do one other thing. I'm going to take a spoon. And I'm just going to go around the edges and make sure that it's level with the actual pie filling. Okay, so now we just put our chocolate crust with peanut butter pie into the refrigerator for 3 or 4 hours and let it chill, and then it'll be ready to cut and serve. Thanks for watching.
So we're gonna have a little taste of this and see what we.
Yeah. Let me go over there and I'll cut those.
But the problem with all this goodies is all the calories.
Right. We don't count
but
calories.
If you're not afraid of having calories, join our kitchen and eat your heart out.
Okay. You want to try that one first?
Yeah, I can try.
Okay, you try that one. I'll cut these.
All right, so let me try this. One piece here. All right. Well, I think I'm just gonna grab it like here.
Let me try one little bite.
It is good, but it's not good for my
Your tummy.
tummy. You know, to have a little fun here on the show. I came here October last year, and my weight was about 165 pounds, and I realized now, I stepped on the scale the other day, 199 pounds. I said, I'm doing.
I didn't do it.
You did it. You did it.